Welcome into another video, and today we are going to be talking about my top 5 safeties of the 2025 NFL draft class. Last week we had cornerbacks, we still got edge rushers, IDL, QBs left to go as we are leading up into the final couple weeks before the NFL draft. Overall, this safety class, I think we got a good mix of day 1 and day 2 guys. There's a good chance only one of these guys goes day 1. I think all 4 of the rest will go on day 2. We got ball hawks. We got run supporters. These top 5 guys, a lot of really high IQ football players. And then some of these guys, athleticism. I mean, we're talking another planet. That's where they had to have been born. But those are the guys who are kind of going to need a little bit work on that technique. So excited. Let's go ahead and get into my number 5 guy. And that is out of Penn State, Kevin Winston Jr., 6'1", 215 with a 4.5 40 ADP of 73.6. Most drafted by the Bears, Bengals, and Jaguars. Only played 3 games in 2024 with a torn ACL and was 2023 All Big Ten honorable mention. Kevin Winston Jr., ideal NFL size and speed. At his pro day, he ran a 4.5 flat, but that's coming off of the ACL. They are saying that he has 4.3 speed when that knee is fully healthy. I have a soft spot for Penn State safeties. You know, my Bears have been famous for selecting Penn State safeties. Adrian Amos back in the day, a really good safety for a long time for the Chicago Bears. Now they're rocking with Jaquan Brisker. So I love me some Penn State safeties, and I love me some Kevin Winston Jr. The ACL injury is probably what's holding him back from being in my top 3 safeties. Also, his lack of experience, only having 15 starts at Penn State. And his instincts and anticipation kind of just look a little bit slow because of it, you know. Lack of reps is worrisome, you know, that especially only at the collegiate level, having a lack of reps, that doesn't transcend always well into the NFL. But Kevin Winston Jr. is a true box safety. I love this kid. He has as many forced fumbles as he does missed tackles. Elite tackler. An elite tackler. Unreal closing pursuit, and he wraps up well, finishes strong. In coverage, he is much better underneath than he is over the top, but he does have that recovery speed if he does get beat behind him. I think this is going to be a guy who's going to cause tight ends and them slower slot receivers a lot of problems underneath. I think he's going to be a nightmare for those kind of guys. Now, those real burners are probably what's going to get him best. He is fast, he is athletic, but his, in coverage, down the field, over the top, it doesn't look like he has that much of a feel for it. Underneath, in front of him, he's a great football player. He's a guy who has the NFL traits. He probably could have been a late first, early second round pick if he didn't tear his ACL in 2024 and got those last full season of reps. Probably going to cause him to slip in the 3rd round. I would not be surprised if I see a team like the Bengals maybe take him in the back half of the 2nd. That could be a really good landing spot for him. But that is my number 5, Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. Getting into my number 4, we have Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma, coming in at 5'10", 192 with a 4.4 240. An ADP of 39.9. 2023, he was first team All Big 12, and in 2024, he was 3rd team All SEC. Billy Bowman Jr.'s size at 5'10", 192 will probably keep him a little bit held back as a serious prospect, but that's only going to drive the chip on my guy's shoulder. I loved his tape because he just has a nose for the football, a phenomenal run defender. He's like the safety version of Jahdae Barron, a guy who, some are saying could play safety as well. Fills gaps. He's got great vision, great closing pursuit, finishes tackles very strong despite his 5'10 build. And then he's got the athleticism to play all over the field. Really fluid technique, really good in coverage. It's just going to be his size and his lack of bounce that's going to get him kind of in trouble with the bigger bodies of the NFL. Only a 35-inch vertical, which 35-inch vertical is not bad, but coming in at 5'10", and you're going up against guys who are probably hitting around that same vertical and are taller, longer arms, that's going to be a trouble for him over the top. Overall, though, if he's not mismatched, he's good underneath, he's good over the top, and he's got the speed to line up in the slot as well. This is going to be a guy that defenses can move all around, especially coming in at his size with the athleticism. They're going to be able to move him in and play a little nickelback, line up in the slot against some of these guys. I like Billy Bowman Jr., I'd probably say the same thing. Bengals, maybe the Jaguars jumping on him in the 2nd round could slip into that early third, but kind of the same range as Kevin Winston Jr. I think it's going to be, that tier jump now as we move into my number 3, where we're getting into that kind of mid to early second round player. Moving on to my number 3 safety prospect, and that is Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, coming in at 6 foot 204 with a 4.56 40 and an ADP of 42.7. Loading up the accolades here, 2024 and 2023 first team AP All-American, the 2023 Nagurski Trophy winner, and he has the most interceptions over the last 2 years. When it comes to ball skills, nobody does it better than Xavier Watts in this class. 13 interceptions, 13 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons. I mean, he just has an unreal feel for the passing game. He's got really good play recognition, and he's a guy who's going to burst, explode, flood these passing lanes consistently in the NFL as well. Great anticipation, and he's always got that great first step. Ball snapped, recognizes the play, he knows where to go. That is the issue, though, when it comes to his athleticism and his run support. If they were able to match his ball skills, this would probably be a top 15 pick. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the most athletic guy, and he sometimes can be a very big liability in the run game. Like I said, he recognizes the run, but he just breaks down in the open field, constantly overrunning his pursuit angles and just whiffing way too often. That is what's really causing him from not being the number 1 safety in this class. That's not something that's always going to be able to fly in the NFL. Kind of reminds me of my guy, Eddie Jackson. I got to stop comparing these guys to my Bears players, but when I look at Eddie Jackson was an unreal ball hawk, had unbelievable ball instincts, could cover all over the field. But when it came to run support, he wasn't a guy who was putting his pads on people. He wasn't a guy who was making tackles. He was constantly overrunning pursuit angles, constantly whiffing on tackles, arm tackles. He kind of reminds me of that. And he also just doesn't have the athleticism to man up these NFL wide receivers like he was able to do in college. Step slow at the route break, not overly fluid. Overall, I love his tape. That's something he can work on because his ball skills and his instincts and his anticipation are off the charts. So if that's something that he can improve at, this guy is going to be an elite safety in the NFL over the next couple of years. I would not be upset if my Chicago Bears took him at all. A guy you can use as a rotational guy, move him in there with Brisker and Byard, and then decide which one to pay moving forward. Probably Brisker. But I do know that the Bears are, one of the most landing spots according to PFF, most draft spots for him. So I'm a big fan of Xavier Watts. I think it would be a great decision, a great landing spot for my Chicago Bears to take him in the second round. Got to work on that run support. That's the big focus there. He can't get that much better of an athlete, and he already has the NFL elite instincts, in my opinion. The anticipation, all of that just needs to get better against the run. Coming in at number 2, we have Nick Eamon-Wari out of South Carolina, coming in at 6'03", 220 with a 4.38 40 and ADP of 39.1. 2024 first team AP All-American, first team All-SEC, and he was the 2022 team defensive MVP. One of the all-time great combines you will ever see in the history of the game. 4.3 speed with a 43-inch vertical and 11.6 broad jump, and that is all coming at 6'3", 220 pounds. A freak of nature. I mean, that is like otherworldly, born on a different planet, all-time combines, really. I mean, he's a freak athlete. Now the question is he going to be Kyle Hamilton or is he going to be Isaiah Simmons? His anticipation and his instincts are a step slow, but athlete. A lot of that makes up for it. His technique isn't great. He's not the smoothest player, but once he gets going and once it starts clicking for him, it gets better as the game goes along, and he is a fucking freak of nature, which makes up for so much. I'm not this is one of those guys that's going to be big time boom or bust. This dude could light the world on fire, become the next Kyle Hamilton, become one of the best safeties in the league, or he could be kind of like Isaiah Simmons, where they're like, hey, this guy can't swing it at the NFL level at safety. Should we maybe try and play him as a linebacker, play him as an edge? There's probably going to be some defensive coordinators who are going to think they can just play him all over. And you potentially have the ability 2. But like I said, anticipation, instincts, and technique, all that great. They all need improvement. But like once the game gets going, he gets good. And this is the guy who covers so much space with his long strides and his speed. He's so good over the top, though. He's got elite ball skills. He really does look like a wide receiver out there. He's also got the ability to absolutely level opponents. You know, he's not the most aggressive guy, but when he wants to be, you know, he could kill anybody coming across the middle over the top. I mean, he's 6'3", 220 pounds with 4.3 speed. He could light your ass up. So like I said, this guy could very well be the next Kyle Hamilton with smoother play and improvement in the instincts and anticipation. Could be the next Isaiah Simmons. You know, hopefully he can go to a good system. I think Pete Carroll would be great. Early second round is probably where I would prefer to see him go. Pete Carroll always loves his big DBs like that. Could be one of those sleeper guys as well to fall to Philadelphia at 32. That, you know, they could take a risk on a player like that. Also, after the combine that he had, like this could be a guy who jumps into the top 15 just because some defensive coordinators like, that's a guy I can do so much with. I view him as an early second round pick, late first at the most. I really could see Philadelphia being the one taking him at 32 and just seeing what they can do with them in that defense. Vic Fangio could probably work out the best. Now moving on to my top safety in the 2025 NFL class, and that is Malachi Starks, coming in at 6'1", 205 with a 4.5 40 and an ADP of 19.3. 2024, second team AP All-American and second team All-SEC. And in 2023, he was first team AP All-American and first team All-SEC. For a guy like Malachi Starks, he gets an automatic plus just for being a 3-year starter at Georgia. You know, probably the best defensive program in college football, if not one of the best. The defensive guys that they've produced over the last few years in the NFL draft, just Jalen Carter, Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, they constantly produce athletes, first round studs. This is a guy who's a very reliable tackler. He's like the perfect blend of what you want for a safety. That's why he's my number one. What I've been talking about is either these guys are great in coverage and they lack in the run support, or they're phenomenal in run support and they need help in coverage. This is the perfect blend. Very reliable tackler, weaves in and away from the blockers constantly, works his way to the runner, gets in good position, lowers his shoulder, makes good clean tackles consistently. Very high football IQ. I don't think the 4.5 speed that he ran matches what you will see on tape. He's got really good recovery speed, really good over the top. I mean, this guy's like, you go and watch his tape. He's made some highlight reel interceptions, elite ball skills, great body control, great hands. This guy's going to make a lot of highlight plays over the top in the NFL. A very physical presence as well, drives into the receiver very well, especially guys coming across the middle, just coming down, putting his pads into their rib cage, clean, you know, very clean tackles, but just such a good all-around player. If somebody picked him in the top 20, I would totally understand why. Me personally, I would say he needs to go in probably the mid-20 range. I think, you know, there's not many safety needing teams. You know, it's a position of depth. He could be a good depth guy for some of these teams. You can't have ever too many safeties. But Minnesota makes a lot of sense to me. I had them drafting him in my mock draft 2.0. I think I had Philly taking him in my 1.0. I think he's going to jump up a little bit before that. I think he could very well be a top 20 selection, but I have him falling to Minnesota. I think that's probably where I'm going to lean in my mock draft 3.0 that comes out next week as well. I think it just makes sense. Fit in well, learn from Harrison Smith. He's got the physical presence to fit Brian Flores' scheme very well. Off the chart anticipation, high football IQ. That's just a guy who would put up numbers with Brian Flores. Like, I know that some Vikings fans are going to be like, we're getting Lewis seen PTSD here, but I don't think you have to worry about that in any way, shape, or form with Malachi Starks. I think he's going to be a day one pro, an absolute stud in the NFL. And I think, you know, lots of boom or bust in this class, but if you want a surefire thing, I think Malachi Starks is the perfect guy for that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another one of my videos. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. Tomorrow we have Bears 7-round mock draft 2.0 coming out. Me and Lucas back at it again. Like I said, IDL, edge rushers, quarterbacks still left to go. Mock draft 3.0 out next week. Could not be more excited. Some of the best times of the year. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.